Neil, so good to see you. Welcome, folks. We didn't have a registration this time, so we don't know exactly who's going to show up in this particular event, but we're going to bring you up to speed, those of you who weren't here last time, and I think you'll find it an exciting meeting. Let's just see. I think there'll be, yeah. Here comes Doyle. Does someone want to watch over the, because they aren't coming in automatically?
Yeah, I'll watch over it, George.
Okay, great. Hey, Doyle.
Hey, Doyle. Hi.
Oh, now
So
I can say.
Good to see you. Just as part of the welcome, for those of you who have not been here before, here comes Giannis. Was Giannis from Greece or from England? I know
He's from Berlin.
From Berlin. Giannis, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, hello. So Giannis has come through our friend Charlie Eastman, and I hope Charlie makes it this time as well. Here comes Therese and Megan Newhouse. Fantastic, great group gathering. This is the next Golden Civilization conversation. This is a gathering of leaders who want to just make sure that a beautiful world happens or continues to happen, depending on your frame. And so we're very excited to be here. And we start off, Charlie, good to see you. Hey, man. So we start off, we're just going to go right into it. And we start off each of these with a mindfulness exercise, just to ground ourselves, because sometimes there are differences in everything. And this is a way to just remind ourselves that we're here with the best of who we are, to share with each other and to be thoughtful. And for that, I'm going to turn this over. Just let me say, Mary Zimmerman, you'll see she's going to be hosting a World Café here. Laura Woodward and Natalie Bonetti are members of the staff, and they'll be doing things at various points. Julian Poe is here from London, and he's going to be sharing some of the background of all of this. And we hope everybody will have a chance to participate, both through breakouts and then through engagement. So that said, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy for a meditative beginning.
Welcome, everyone. Wonderful to see all of you. And so let's just start by coming into our seats, into our chairs. And you might close your eyes just to help bring an inner focus. And first of all, taking a big, deep breath in. And on the exhale, softening and grounding even more into your chair. Another full breath. And on the exhale, feeling even more the contact of your body on the chair. Noticing whether it's on your back or your thighs or wherever, is it soft or hard, warm or cool, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And letting those sensations bring you right here, right now. Here in this moment, sitting in your chair with a community from across the world. And then just coming into the soles of your feet and feeling any sensations in the soles of your feet. And perhaps imagining roots growing out of the soles of your feet through the foundation of the building you're in, breaking through the surface of the earth. And perhaps the roots are growing down layer by layer by layer, perhaps almost to the earth's core. And then imagining our roots all connecting somewhere equidistant between Europe and America and whatever other continent might be present right now. Imagine all of our roots connecting in this support of a better world, a golden civilization. And then allowing your awareness to come back up, up, up through the core of the earth, the layers breaking through the surface, back through the foundation, back through the soles of your feet, and up through your legs, and into your torso, and feeling the rise and fall of the breath wherever you feel it, in the front of the torso, maybe in the belly, maybe in the ribs, maybe in the chest. Or you might feel the breath both in the front and the back of the torso, along the back. And just allowing the natural rhythm of the breath to be there, not trying to control it. And know that you can always come back to this breath, which is always present, to bring you to a place of presence, of groundedness, of inner connection. So if you notice yourself in the conversation getting triggered or maybe getting overly excited or maybe nervous to speak, you can just come back. I follow the breath in the belly, but wherever you feel that sense of stillness and calm and rhythm that brings you back to yourself and back to a sense of being grounded and connected to the earth. And I'm going to ring the bell, and you can just listen to the sound of the bell until it fades away, and then open your eyes.
Wonderful.
Well,
Thank you, Kathy, for grounding us. May we all come to the this work with the spirit of calm and ease and presence that Kathy initiated this with. I'm going to speak for a minute, hand it off to Julian. He's going to speak for a few minutes and hand it back to me. Just to let you know, this is a movement that's been happening for a year and a half, over maybe, is it a year and a half? I think it's a year and a half. And hundreds of conversations. I've been participating in probably 100 of them all over the world. Julian's going to share with us briefly a reflection on one that's been ongoing, brilliant one in London. And again, with the notion that the notion of this is that we can create a golden civilization, one that we might imagine being 200 years out or whatever. We can make it happen now with the technology that we have and the commitment and the ability to connect with people and the passion and good-heartedness of people. So I'm going to share with you just briefly my screen and then hand it off to Julian. Let's see, this is the screen. So this is, if you want a golden civilization, you must start with what is golden inside of you. And of course, that's what Kathy just did for us. The basis of a golden civilization conversation are 3 flip charts outlining the vision and getting inspired by the vision, looking honestly at the difficulties and the obstacles around it, and then moving from that darkness, that hero's journey down into the darkness, into the light of action, energy, and commitment. And that's generally how we try to structure these. We'll come back to that. I'm going to throw it to this frame and bring Julian in. This was something we allied with the People's Inaugural, and I'm going to let Julian share from there just for our last meeting. And so we created our own kind of oath, just as they had an oath of participating and making the world a better place. Julian, would you like to share from here?
Thank you, George, and hello everybody. Absolute pleasure to be with good friends, new friends and comrades in our collective endeavour to build a better world. And as George, you were saying, at our last meeting, at our last global community meeting, we shaped an oath in the mode of a presidential oath, which you saw on the top left-hand side here, because we followed the example of the People's Inauguration Oath, now the Revolutionary Love Movement. And our oath that we shaped is at the bottom right of this screen, which I'm going to read in a second. And we shaped it on the back of our thinking about what we'd like to see in a golden civilization in the future, a better world. And there were some key phrases, and George, you might talk about this in a second. Key phrases like everyone has enough to lead a full life, love for the untamed, a home for a snow leopard, freedom, toleration, acceptance, end of war, truth, joy, ease in dealing with challenges with ease, offering ourselves up, laying ourselves down. And as I read the People's Oath on the bottom right-hand side, please in the chat, pop in any thoughts that you have for how you would improve it or add to it. But this is what we developed and what we said out loud to each other at the end of that session, was this notion that we commit that with urgency in our spheres of influence and with our fellow beings, we will faithfully execute our role in healing and reimagining our world, and will, to the best of our ability, preserve, protect, and defend full opportunity for all, liberty, joy, and toleration for ourselves and for all around us. And we will do so by offering ourselves up with vitality, with mindfulness, and with love. And again, do offer thoughts in the chat as you take that in. And one of the dreams we had with it was that one day we might all meet on Capitol Hill and say this out loud and talk and reflect about all that we've been doing in service of this oath. And George, just a footnote, you were saying that I'd had the pleasure of hosting a Golden Civilization conversation for a couple of years on Primrose Hill. And Parol here is a member of that group, a group of about 10 to 25 friends, philosophers, teachers, consultants, leaders. And we've had a great time over the last 2 years supporting each other in our sense of vision for the future. And one thing we identified was that in an era when there's so much technological development, we thought it was important to focus on the notion of wisdom and cultivate our resources for wisdom in the sense of our humanity and gearing ourselves up to create a better world. So we're focused on that. In turn, we'll hear about other local initiatives, I know, in a second, but we're focused on that. And one of our members, Jane Galt-Rogers, created a Centre for Wisdom, which creates discourse and writing about wisdom. And that has a large community that follows it. And in the next year, a group of philosophers, writers, academics, psychotherapists, leaders, consultants, we're setting up a series of conferences in the next 12 months to bring to bear the lens of wisdom on work, the nature of work, the experience of work as the experience of the workplace, because it's in work that so many of the issues that we want to address, the obstacles to do with inequality, climate change, human well-being, sense of purpose, great leadership, we feel can be addressed. So we're on that for the next 12 months, and we'll be in conference and in discourse and in writing to help people bring to bear wisdom on the world of work and to support people to reimagine it. So that's just a little something for me, George, to both about our oath, but also one example of local initiative in support of it. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Julian. Just a couple more words. I might take us back to the screen for a moment. This is a group, as I said, that has many countries involved, and many countries have hosted Golden Civilization conversations. Let's go back to the screen just for a moment here. Here we go. So this was the frame that we left you at. In our last meeting, we had the vision that we came up with. I'm just going to show you briefly. You'll glance at it for a moment. You'll see a few words and you go yes to most of those words. These visions have been very similar all over the world. Obstacles also very similar all over the world. It makes you realize that the structure that we use in the life planning context is one that can be addressed, that we take on the obstacles by addressing action steps and commitments to basically change the world. So this particular gathering every couple of months is for leaders. We will come back to the vision, the obstacles, and the action steps and commitments in future meetings, and we will gather your information as you share it in the chat today. We are also going to have a couple of World Cafes hosted just in a moment by Mary Zimmerman that will bring each of you into the conversation. And then we're going to close. The last half of the session is going to be on a petition, which we're going to add to one of the offerings that we have as a golden civilization to help people make change happen. So I think with that, Mary, I'm going to toss the baton over to you.
Oh, well, thank you, George. Thank you, Julian and Kathy. It's just so great to get everybody together that's so charged with doing better things in the world. And thank you all for that. We're going to go into a breakout in just a moment, and we call our breakouts cafes. So you'll be seated at a table of 3 to 4. And what we would like from you in this cafe table is just to share from your corner of the world. What is it, be it small or be it great, that you're doing right now to contribute to these kinds of ideals that we've been discussing in a golden civilization? What are you doing? And please share it with the rest of your group. We're going to have about 15 minutes. So we want everyone to be able to talk. The only rule, if there is a rule, is that everyone talks before anyone talks twice. So if you'll just take it away. Any questions with that before we go to the breakout, the cafe, excuse me. All right, enjoy your tables. Hey, go ahead.
Oh, so Mary, I think you've got a couple more minutes just to close this part and lead us into the next.
Just a bit, and wow, if your group was like mine, I'm spinning with the wonder of what we all are offering here today. So what symbols, as far as we're going with this, is so if you want to respond with a yes and a positive thumbs up. You know, if you're feeling neutral on the subject, then let's just, neutral is here. And if you're not excited or you don't think it's a great idea, well, we know this one. So what I would ask of you is, how did you like this experience, getting together and talking about what we're doing to make the world a better place? I think we're in agreement there, and let's talk about how about inspiration? How many of you were inspired? Inspired, yeah. I know. Learned anything? How many of you learned anything from the experience? Right, then we've already done wondrous things in this gathering, and thank you all for your participation. You'll be back for another cafe toward the end. So George, if you want to take it back.
And let me just say that in that other cafe, we're going to ask some of you who have been in the breakouts to speak and summarize what you saw happen. We think we'll have time for that, so there'll be more of all of us together sharing, which will be wonderful. There are a number of kind of products that Golden Civilization has come up with. One of them is just this gathering, regular gathering and local gatherings around the 3 flip charts, the vision, the obstacles, and then commitments and action steps. One of them is something we call a fiduciary statement, which is just a statement of that all institutions have greater responsibility in a way for Mother Earth and democracy and for all people. Over the last couple of months, we've put together a petition which takes in all of the things, maybe not all of them, but so many of the things that people have spoken to all over the world as well. I mean, as I say, we've done this in Mumbai, we've done it in Singapore, we've done it in Tokyo, we've done it all over Europe, we've done it all over the United States. So what we've done is we've gathered within this petition kind of what everybody is saying all over the world needs to be done, either as a reflection on what the obstacles are to the golden civilization or what the vision is. So we put it in, and the notion is, and the kind of the inspiring thing here is that let's get this done. Let's not wait a couple hundred years. Let's not trust totally to the chaos. It's wonderful to have some chaos around and vitality and creativity. I mean, we can have a lot of that, in fact. But let's also make sure that we're on target and we share a vision. So what we've done is put together a petition. I'm going to share screen with you. I'm going to read the petition slowly as you hear it. In fact, even now, if you want, all that you put into chat, we're gonna absorb and reflect on as we fine tune the petition and then launch it in some way. So please contribute whatever you feel needs to be contributed. And then we're going to have breakouts about both the petition and how it might be launched, but also about any other ideas you might have about how we can most efficiently create a golden civilization within a generation. So here's the shared screen. Once again, back to the, does everybody see that? Thumbs up if you see it. Yep, okay, good. So I'm going to go to the petition. So here it is. A petition. And we're looking at change.org and spreading it around with all of our friends, and a petition. Establish a golden civilization. So that's what we're aiming to do. To eliminate wars, corruption, planetary crises, tyrannical governments, racism, and false news within a generation. Here's the petition itself. Dear leaders of the world, we, the people, are fed up with endless war, corruption, planetary crises, tyrannical governments, racism, and false news. After a year and a half of the Golden Civilization movement, we have clarified our vision of a golden civilization and how to achieve it through institutional, political, and social accountability. And so, we, the people of the planet, petition across the world all governments, all representatives, and all institutions to immediately begin and establish a stable, trustworthy, and sustainable system of governance based in participative democracy, which is committed within a generation and at its core to ending war, ending food insecurity and extreme poverty, ending systemic racism and all forms of personal prejudice, ending propaganda and false news and false science, ending corruption, establishing a sustainable planet with safety and security for its species, establishing a secure democracy and its freedoms for all people, requiring all institutions, whether corporate, nonprofit, or governmental, to place the interests of all people and stakeholders, of democracy and the planet that sustains us above their own. We demand this so that respect, wisdom, trust, and love may flourish along with humanity and all Earth's species. What would be wonderful, because we're going to take this off and we're going to have breakouts, if you take a picture of this petition with your iPhone or whatever you've got, screenshot, then you can have it to refer to as we go to our breakouts, if you'd like. What typically happens with a vision like this really is recreating the vision that we've seen all over the planet. These are elements that are in virtually every vision of a golden civilization that has ever been done. And what happens when we hear it, we think, wonderful. I mean, it's this mix of incredible excitement and wonder and surprise and delight, and also, oh my God, whew, anxiety about all the forces that might stand against it and make it difficult to occur. And that's classic. That happens in a life plan as well for ourselves. So what we want to do here is just focus on the vision that is something that might gather us from all over the planet together. And build this so that at first it might be signed by 1,000 and then 10,000 and then 100,000 and then millions of people, so that we can then speak to our representatives, speak to in our democracy, and have a voice and say, we've come up with something and we think it's time to solve all the problems, not just do a little bit about this, about child care over here, or a little bit about taxes over here, or a little bit about voting over here. We think it's time to solve it all, and within a generation. So we need an overall frame, and that's what we're coming with. So I hope everybody's taking a picture of it. If anybody wants me to wait on taking a picture, please raise your hand, but please take a picture so you have this. And then I'm going to come back to to all of us together. And let's see, it's Mary is going to present the framework, but we're basically going to be looking at, are there changes that should be made to the petition? Is it, how would we make it go viral if we like it? But then also, do you have ideas? We want wild, creative, innovative ideas about how to make a golden civilization happen in short order all over the world. And if you've got ideas that you think could make this happen in a generation and really build the movement very strong, we would love to hear those in the breakouts and then have them communicated to us. So again, we continue to fasten these meetings around the most innovative ideas that we have and our mutual effort and endeavor to make it all happen. That said, Mary Zimmerman, back to our World Café.
Oh, thank you again, George. And wow, I mean, it's a lot to take in. Even why don't we just take a collective breath right now? Just of all the work that's been done, all of the wisdom and knowledge went into the wording of that petition, and how it can grow and how it can evolve into exactly what we want for this golden civilization. So we're going to go back to our cafe tables. You're going to be with a different group this time. And this time I would ask that each group have a volunteer to be a reporter that'll report back to us here in the big room. So the reporter's job will just be for about 2 minutes when we come back together to give a report or synopsis of what was generated in your group. So as George said, we want your creativity here. We want your inventive spirit. We want your intellect. We want all the fabulous experience that is coming from this group into ideas on how we can get this word out, how this petition can get out. What did you see? What came up for you? What's the best way to get it into the world now, rather than sitting on it and waiting? We want to get it out now. So we're after all of those things. This is any innovative knowledge that you want to bring forth, is welcome. Any questions on anything here? George, anything you want to add to that?
Well, we're also open to your own, you might go, I think there's something else that you could do besides a petition or in addition to a petition. We want your creativity. We're passionate about making a golden civilization happen within a generation. So if you've got something else that you want to share that you think is really important for us to be aware of, this would be the time to share that as well. But obviously, we put the petition front and center here for your ideas as to how we might move forward with that. Yeah.
Well, how was that for you? How was that one? Yeah. Anybody see different ways of doing things or what's being done right now? Maybe fewer, okay. Then ideas that came up that were inspiring. About those. Doyle. Great. So what we'd like to do now, excuse me, is just hear a couple of minutes from each one of your reporters. So if you're a reporter, if you would raise your hand, please. All right, Doyle, let's go ahead and start with you, please. And you're on mute, Doyle. You're on mute.
We were silent the whole time. So we talked about the idea of not ending things, but creating things. So that, instead of being the negative side, it's the positive side. And looking at, finding a participative government, as democracy may not be what's going to unify the whole world. And finding a way that there is more inclusivity as opposed to exclusivity. Getting more people involved with everyone taking courageous actions. And then, post everyone, running out to, add this to our social media. And toward the end, we really sit down and recognize the steps that have already been taken so that it can show the path of the process of going toward a golden civilization, so that each person that participates can then see where they are in their own circle and take that next right step that will be an incremental step in their environment. So there we are.
Wow. Could you go? You probably could go on, Doyle. I know. Is that enough for our synopsis from you?
I think I covered all of the area. We also talked about Gandhi, Brown versus education, and gay marriage being steps that were in the correct direction.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for the add-on. We might not have time for an add-on for everyone, but it brings up the fact that, would you please, just any words that you hear that really resonate with you, maybe stick them in chat while we're listening to these reports come out. Inclusivity, taking the next right step, just all those beautiful things that Doyle was saying, if we can add those as well. Who else was a reporter? Neil, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So collectively, I think the first observation was that in Marilyn's comment was that the petition is one that asks people to believe in what's possible. And then she noted the collective efforts in Venice when they visited. They actually were able to clean up the canal. So when you visit there is no special odor, particularly in August. having been to Venice, and I remember that. So, but so the comment most important was the idea that change is possible because you can see it at different levels. Laura appreciates George coming from the perspective of total possibilities and expands the developing, it expands this whole process from the life planning process, where personal experience has shown him that change is possible and lives changed for the better. How do we spread the word? What's possible? How do you do the grassroots? All those kinds of things. Framing the message to organizations, getting individuals to be brave enough on a corporate board to actually say, hey, wait a second, we got to talk about this. This is really important. That's an interesting challenge, because on board of directors or leaderships in corporations, everyone has to defend their familiar, their safety zone. I don't want to lose my job because I do this and get like I'm too crazy or something. Because this particular petition is everything. It's huge. Mary mentions the idea that that's $1 million question, and vision is so grand. What is the way to get the message out? And then the interesting thing was her comment that we have to replace what is negative in our culture with what's possible. So nature abhors a vacuum. So you're going to make space for something better by getting rid of the negative so that you can actually have space for people to entertain the possibility. Hence the conversations. People really need to imagine what they want. She offered an example of an energy company here with a fellow in place, and he asked all his managers to actually take 15 minutes and do nothing. And many of them were unable to do that. That's probably true in a culture where we're all focused on getting things done, and our identity is associated with the doing versus the being. Our sameness, let's see, I think that was Mary talking about our sameness is 99% DNA is the same. No, that was, anyway. The physical therapist retired. I'm sorry.
Marilyn.
Thank you. Okay, Marilyn. That's where I made the mistake. Anyway, so the idea is that if we can recognize that we are so much alike, that we have so many things in common in the human experience, that we can probably do a better job focusing on those things versus, you know, I'm black, purple, green, yellow, rainbow, whatever it might be. Type thing, and that there's a way for commonality to be found. The other observation that was made was the idea that if we can get enough people on a petition to sign the petition, perhaps the number of people signing the petition creates a greater validity in the message and mission of the goal. Let's see. This is my first exposure, so I tell the idea that it's hard to see this. I had a black lab, and we went to this little kind of circus thing where there was this giant elephant, and I had the black lab. My black lab would notice all kinds of animals, but standing in front of this elephant, she had no idea what it was. She couldn't recognize it or see it. So here we are with this idea that is as big as this elephant that people can't see, because it's so big. So those were my comments, and as the note taker, I hope I did okay.
You were fabulous, Neil. Fabulous. Okay, Natalie, did I see you raise your hand as a reporter?
Yep. So in ours, we talked a lot about how do we go about getting out this petition and getting a lot of like buy-in, both from people who we need the signatures of, and then how are we hoping to distribute it to like the world leaders, as is like called out in the first line. So we talked a lot about like how can we distribute it to get signatures, and by talking about like the end goal, hoping to go to like the governments themselves, we kind of went into this much deeper questioning of how are we going to make it persuasive to like those people. And it kind of brought forth the idea of trying to localize, like specifically find a group of local people who are within a geographic area, so that when we go to a representative, it actually speaks to their population and their constituents. So whether that be, you know, like a church group or a faith group, or like an online like Facebook group that pertains to, you know, like a specific city. But those might be areas where if we distribute the message, if we get signatures, they're all going to be from like one local area. And then we talked a lot about, you know, like how change.org could be like a good place for it, because it does so much of the organization for you. You don't have to worry about all of the like the hassle of like paper, and then being able to like distribute that and share it immediately to like your social media as well. And then, you know, like we kind of ended with a lot of positive thinking about like the path forward, and how we also are trying to think of like a good mediated like way forward, you know, and bright thoughts about like this administration and how they seem to be doing that.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. Who else? I think we have one more group.
I'd be happy to talk to that group unless someone else would. So I'm just going to pause and, okay. We had a wonderful 15-minute conversation, which was could have been the beginning of something brilliant, but in itself was brilliant. The four themes I want to share is, one, we had a wonderful exchange about the character of this. Some of us felt this was naive, oversimplistic, too grand and unachievable, and therefore switches us off and could switch others off. Others felt, well, we are fed up. We do want to see these things ended, and let's challenge ourselves at an individual and an organizational level, social level, to bring this about. But there was a real fizz around that. That took us to the notion of the individual, and we didn't actually say this explicitly, but it makes me wonder, is this, you know, why just to leaders of the world? Why isn't this just to us all, individuals? Because in the end, it's a challenge for all of us, isn't it? Whatever situation we're in terms of our self-development and our mental stamina. The third theme was, let's not underestimate the complexity and the interconnectedness of all these things and intervening on them, which took us to our last point, which is that we were only four. And therefore, of course, we're really scared of this. But this is not about us four. It's about everybody, isn't it? But what was so strong for me, this is a personal point, was our resourcefulness, because we're all active in certain ways on voter suppression, or intervening on social isolation, or being a wonderful philosopher and teacher, or intervening around reimagining work. You know, humble things, but great things, which I think I took pleasure in hearing about from each other. And others might want to, I might not have got that quite right, so others might want to come in from that group.
Oh, I think you nailed it, Julian.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that.
All right, well, how about, I mean, even if we can I just want to do maybe a show of hands just with gratitude for what showed up and who showed up and how you showed up and what you're doing in your corners of the world and what you've brought into this. So thank you, everyone. And wow, George, lots to go with now.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Great reporting all. Neil, wonderful to welcome you to the group. Haven't seen you in years. Really great to see you. And Julian and Natalie and Doyle, the reporters. Fantastic. Well done. I wish I could have been in each group. I'm so curious what Parul and Bobby and Giannis had to say. Misla, I haven't heard from you, so I'm really curious as well. But I want to speak, I think, just to this one notion that Julian brought up. I'd mentioned it earlier, this notion that this is so huge that some people will be turned off or be too much. There's I want to speak to that because there's a reason why we're going big. And part of it has to do with the fact that our governments tend to take little bits of, let's take care of childcare this way, or let's not take care of it this way. And let's do this about voting or this about racism. And the problems keep going. We keep having war, we keep having corruption, and we don't see wisdom at the top of every hierarchy of power, even though we've had 250 years to develop this extraordinary world that we have. Why not? So and we have this group, this way of joining together with Zoom and other ways now that, I mean, COVID's really brought us together. And all over the world, I'm on conversations globally with people multiple times every week. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing, an extraordinary time. And so the thought was, in life planning, what we do, this was the profession that I was in, a number of you come from that world, but in life planning, what we do is we take someone who's like most of us, wrestling with their life and trying to do the best they can. And most of us never really kind of grab the, whatever it is, the bull by the horns, whatever it is, grab the world that we really want to live in and make it happen for ourselves. And that's the function that we trained life planners in, is to inspire the person to come up with their grandest vision of who they really want to be and make it so real and say, we'll give you support to make that happen. We'll provide the intellect around the financial budget, all that kind of stuff, and we'll make it happen. And what happens is that nobody turns us down. Nobody. Because the vision is so right on for every single person. It's so right on. They will never turn you down. It's who they're meant to be. And this vision that we're trying to create is who the world is meant to be. And we all know it. That's the incredible thing. We all know that the world is meant to be a world of peace, not a world of war, a world of integrity and authenticity, not of corruption. A world of meeting and greeting each other, not of prejudice and racism. We know that. Everybody knows it virtually. So the thought is, well, let's just put it all together, and let's put it all together enough times in enough ways, which is why we have the Golden Civilization conversations, why we have a fiduciary statement, and now we've got a petition. Let's put it together in enough ways that people are going, yeah, I get it, And yeah, sure, it was scary at first, but now I realize everybody's in there with me. Everybody has a good heart. Everybody wants kindness and generosity. But nobody wants to squelch vitality and creativity. So we want to make sure that's in there too. And this wonderful notion that it happens in local communities. I love what Natalie was saying, and Bill brought it up in our group about or maybe it was Natalie, let's get it to the local community and then go from there all the way up to the UN. So that's really what we're about. We are participative democracy is how I think about it. Whether you call it democracy or not, we're participative as a community to try to make something happen. So it's wonderful working with all of you. I'm eager to hear more, really eager to hear more. We will be wrestling with how to bring this out. Change.org looks like it does a lot if we put it on there. And you all sign it on change.org, and you can then send it just like that to your Facebook, to your Twitter, to your social media accounts, so that everybody can get an opportunity and you can say something about it, to sign it and spread it. And the notion I have is, let's get 1,000 signatures, and then let's get 10,000, and then let's get 100,000, and then let's get 1 million. And let's look locally, do we have enough to go to our representatives and make it happen? So I think this is a wonderful tool to go viral, to add to all of our other tools. We gather every couple of months and would love to have ideas from all of you as to things we might organize around. Always there's a sharing and an inspiration that comes out. So we will be sending out word in the next couple of weeks as to when we're gathering again. And we ask everybody to see if you can bring 5 more people. 5 people that are part of your community. Get them inspired and come. See if they can come. And we want skeptics, we want believers, we want people who want to somehow engage around the world. We want people from all spectrums of politics, of society, of all levels of income, all languages, all countries. We want everybody to come together and make something happen. So that's really where we are. We have a few minutes left.